Hi, everybody, and welcome to weekly consult number 5 with Anne. That would be me. And today we're going to talk about tantrums and outbursts. So, what would you like to know? There's so much. So, what actually is a tantrum? And I don't know if anybody's watching this live or not. But what's a tantrum? Let's just sit with that for a second. And can you hearken back to when you were a kid and you threw tantrums, or even as an adult? Like, when do you throw a tantrum? Right? Isn't it typically when you're at the end of like your last nerve just got touched and you just don't know, you're just losing it, right? Like it, and that's what it's the same for kids. And so as an adult throwing a tantrum, what is it that you really wish would happen? Isn't it that you would like to be heard? You would like somebody to get something about you that they're not getting, or that you would like a different response than what you're getting? I can't remember the last time I threw a tantrum, but I do throw tantrums periodically. Not very often anymore. But it's always when I'm just at the end of my rope. And so where this gets a little bit more complicated for kids especially with autism, but also with ADD and ADHD, is like, what are they actually saying? What's being said here? And kids with autism function primarily energetically. Like, we've talked a lot about that, about how different their communication is, but it's more energetic and telepathic. And they're also super, 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 super sensitive and super aware to not only their environment, but the environment around them. Like, they function much more like radio towers. And so their reactions, because a tantrum really is a reaction, their reactions may be in nanoseconds as opposed to slow burns and stuff like that. I've had a clinical practice for 30 years. Is it 30 years? 29 years, I guess. And I graduated in 91, so 29 years. And one of the underlying principles of my therapy practice has always been behavior's a form of communication, right? And so if that's true, what are they actually saying with this behavior, right? And these are questions that you may want to ask yourself outside of the tantrum, because when your kid's tantruming, chances are pretty good that you're emotionally a little wrought up, unless you're not. But the questions to ask yourself are what's he saying, or what is she saying? And it may go farther than, well, he just wants to get his own way, or he just wants to do what he wants to do, right? Like, no, what's underlying that? What's that insistence on getting their own way? I mean, one of the things that I know about kids, both personally and professionally, is that frequently kids are some of the most disempowered and unempowered people on the planet, right? I mean, think about the idea of control and how controlled kids' lives are compared to adults. And yeah, there are safeguards that need to be in place. And no, you don't want to let your kid chase a ball out in the middle of a busy street, right? Like, there are those kinds of considerations. An infant can't drive a car. There are a certain number of developmental changes on physical, cognitive, and emotional levels that need to occur in order for an infant to get to full development. I get all that. And kids typically don't have very much control over their lives, right? Like they have to go to school and they have to sit still and they have to be quiet and they have to raise their hand. And many of them have to learn the way kids are being taught when they don't actually learn that, like all that kind of stuff. And so, one of the ways that I know about going beneath the what are they saying, I hate you, like what's underneath that is what you may find is that what they want to have is some say in their lives, right? They want to be asked questions and they want to have a voice. They want to be heard. And that's one of the things that I love about Trina, my friend and colleague that did the last couple of consults with me, is that she has a gift for being the kind of energy, the kind of person, the kind of, connector with kids who really actually can hear them and doesn't have a point of view and doesn't try to control them into functioning or behaving a certain way. The thing about tantrums, also aggression, outbursts, like that kind of stuff is, unless I get some questions from you guys or some specific examples, I may just leave you with some ideas and some questions that you can ask. And this may be a conversation that we have over time. But let's just go back to the idea of control again. So as an adult, you have a lot more control over your life than kids do. Yes? So as an adult, if you have symptoms of ADD or ADHD or autism, you can create your life in such a way that you actually get more of what you need than not, right? So there's a lot of, people with autism get overstimulated a lot, and being in crowds is difficult for them. As an adult, you can choose to work from home, right? People with autism typically don't learn the way other people learn, and they don't think the way other people think. And they're brilliant in certain areas, many of them technology areas. As an adult with autism, you can specialize in whatever it is that you're totally gifted in, and not have to work in crowds of people or go to a crowded office or whatever. As a child with autism, you have to go to school, right? And you are typically taught in ways that you don't learn. And then also, as either a child or an adult, how many of you are made wrong for? Actually, I can't see the questions from everyone. So, Chelsea, do you want to?
There aren't any yet. I was letting everybody know that they can put their questions.
Oh, Anne can't see your questions. Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you. So anyway, I can't remember where I was going with that, but so you're welcome. Thanks for being on. I'm happy to share this. The person who says watching, do you have any questions? Is there anything that you would like to know more about? Here, a couple of other things before we go. I would, these are just suggestions. And one of the things that I know about being a parent is how often parents make themselves wrong for not knowing stuff that they don't know yet because that hasn't been presented to them or whatever. Please, 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 please don't make yourself wrong for whatever's going on with your child. There's no end result. There's no magic fix. There's no magic wand. There's no nothing. Parenting is a rolling readjustment and kids change a lot. And it's like a dance, parenting is like a dance. And if you don't keep moving, it's like quicksand. You just sink. So just keep going. Some of the stuff that you try is going to work. Some of it isn't. You're not wrong for the stuff that doesn't work. Just keep asking questions like, what else could I do? All right. My child is currently experiencing this issue. He seems to read differently. Yeah, they do. I don't know. They actually speed read, and many of them do, and many of them can get the content on a single page just with one glance. Some of them, their brains are wired differently, and so they read in reverse. Some of them, not every child reads from left to right. These are kids that have different capacities and are gifted differently. But one of the things that you can ask your child is find out how they actually do read. And some of the suggestions that you can make are to encourage them to read from right to left or from bottom to top, or see if they can get the content in just one glance. Or maybe they can run their finger down the middle of the page. I don't know. But thank you for that. And one of the things that I would love you guys to do is to ask your kids questions. Like, if you could read in a way that was easy for you, how would you do that? And if your child hasn't been asked that question or any question like that before, they may sort of look puzzled, but they don't have to answer instantly. Like, give them a go at it. And this is an ongoing conversation. This is this whole idea of control and asking your kids questions and giving your kids a sense of participation, a sense that their point of view counts, that whatever they say is going to be heard. It doesn't mean that you become a doormat, but you're really looking for information right now from your kid. So that's the reading thing. I can't read your name, so thank you for, it just says Facebook user for all of you, just so you know. But for the parent with the reading issue, ask questions and get back to us. Get back to me. I would love to hear how this goes. All right, my toddler melts down and hits himself. I struggle with what to do in that situation. I tend to want to hold him and love him, but he resists. I don't really know what I'm supposed to do to help him not hit himself. The self-injurious behavior is really kids who hurt themselves, whether they're cutters, later down the road as adolescents, or whether they bang their heads or whatever. I wonder sometimes if they don't experience this like pain and like literally pain and frustration at not being heard or not being able to express themselves in a way that other people can hear. And it's just a way of creating a different kind of pain, right? That mutes out that other. But toddlers do throw tantrums, and that's sort of a normal part of human development. Like, how many of you feel like you're damned if you do and damned if you don't with your toddler? It's like, no, I do it my way. Mommy, help me. No, go away. Help me, no. Right? That's welcome to the world of parenting a toddler. It's like, hey. So if they're, I guess I'm a little practical about this stuff. Pay attention to how they're, quote, hurting themselves. But I would tend to intervene less frequently than more frequently. And after the head banging, or after the, I don't know how it is that your toddler's hurting himself, but after that, you can have a conversation with them. And even if they're not able to verbalize, you can just say, "Honey, when you hurt yourself like that, I get really worried about you." Like, and I don't, a conversation that a friend of mine had with her son one day was really awesome. You know, the symbiotic relationship that you have with your infant, where you just know, you know when their diapers need to be changed, you know when they're tired, you know when they're hungry, like that kind of stuff. You have a sense, you know, not to let somebody get in their face, like all that kind of stuff. One of the things that she said to her son one day when he was 2 was, "Look, I used to know exactly what you were thinking and how you were feeling, but I don't anymore. And I need you to help me out. I need you to let me know. So I need," and she was talking specifically about being tired and about being hungry. And she said, "If you're hungry, tell me. And if you're tired, let me know." And so for your toddler who's tantruming, you could have a conversation with them when they're not tantruming and just say, "I don't know what you're trying to tell me when you tantrum like that. I don't know whether it's that you're hungry or you're frustrated. I don't know what it is, but I need you to help me out. I need you to give me some words, right? Or I need you to, I don't know whether your toddler speaks or can draw or point to things or whatever, but you can acknowledge the difference now that things have changed between the two of you, and you still want to connect with him. You still want to hang in there with him, and you need his help in order to be able to do that, or her help. Okay, does that help? Oh, and you want to hold him? Don't hold him. If he doesn't want to be held, don't hold him. Like, really don't do that, and acknowledge there's a big difference between you and your son, or you and your child. Like, if you're somebody when you're upset that needs to be hugged and cuddled, guess what? You have a child who's not like that. Like, just really don't, and really honor them. Really honor their need to um, be in charge of their physical space, and also let him know that if he starts hurting himself, that you are going to have to touch him to keep him from hurting himself. Like, you're going to have to intervene so he doesn't, right? But have that conversation with him too. And you can say to him, "Mom, you know, when mommy gets upset, she really likes to be held and cuddled. And I get that you don't when you're upset, and I won't try to do that to you." Okay? It, again, it's a rolling readjustment, and the more conversations you can have like this with your kids, without, because what you're doing is you're engaging with them and you're inviting them to give you the information that they may feel like they aren't able to express yet, or don't even know what it is. But once they're invited, you open the door, right? And it's an ongoing conversation, you guys. Here's the deal: what they say one day may work, and the next day it may not work. And there's nothing wrong with you or them. Just keep asking, keep moving. All right. My daughter tantrums quick my daughter's tantrums quickly turn to anger and aggressive behavior, like biting, hitting, hurting herself, destroying property. Is this a tantrum or a meltdown? What's the difference? I get that really is just a difference in severity. You didn't tell me how old she is or what it is that leads up to her throwing a tantrum. But again, conversation conversation with her about the kind of conversation that I'm talking with you about right now, where you're really looking for information, you're looking to engage with your kids. You are not a doormat. You are not going to let them rule the house. Like, this is not that. If they say, "Well, I want to stay up all night long and play video games that keep everybody else awake," you can say, "That doesn't work in our house. Like, what's another way that you can be in charge of your bedtime without disturbing everybody?" I mean, it's a back and forth, right? So more information about the age of the daughter tantruming, and then also, what is it that happens right before she tantrums? Like, what do you know? Hi, Melissa. Thank you. My daughter is 10, who is 10, has been extra defiant lately. We're not sure the most effective way to handle this. She has ADHD and anxiety. I'm not sure if quarantine makes things worse. We're working with her therapist on behavior charts, etc., but I feel like nothing we try pleases her. Um, the defiance again is it that there's a diagnosis that's called oppositional defiant disorder, and it's a fancy diagnosis that's given for kids that won't do whatever it is that you want them to do. But again, go back and watch this part where I was talking about control. Like, what is it? What is it? Is there anything? Is there anywhere that she feels? I mean, I wonder about COVID and having to stay home and not being able to go to school. Like, again, that's a total loss of control for your kids, because at least they got to go out of the house and be around other kids and do all that kind of stuff. But again, I would have a conversation with her. The thing about behavior, I was trained in behavior modification and cognitive behavioral therapy. And oh, my laptop's gonna like poop it up. Hold on. And one of the things that I know about changing behaviors is behaviors really are a form of communication. And so if you don't change whatever it is that's being communicated, chances are really good the behavior's not going to change at all. So I go back to my original question, which is, what are they saying? What's my child saying? Right? And so maybe you have a conversation with your daughter about, yeah, COVID has put a lot of restrictions on us and like that kind of stuff, and ask her, is there anything, is there any, and let's have a conversation about how to make this easier on everybody, right? And really be willing to listen to her. That's another thing to, and I can do another thing at some point on, or maybe I'll just do one next week on parenting, on parenting these kids. But if you have a really strong point of view about a result, like they have to do one thing or they have to do another thing, um, for kids who don't feel like they have any control in their lives, what are their choices? They can either be a goody two shoes and do exactly what you want, or they can throw the book at you and resist absolutely everything that you're asking them to do. So again, this is not about being a doormat and letting them run over you. This is really about having a conversation, about engaging with them, about getting information, about letting them know what works for you, and if what they're proposing doesn't, continuing the conversation, right? Does that make sense? All right. 9-year-old, thank you. So her tantrums turn to anger and aggression. Yeah, I would, mom of the, or dad of the 9-year-old, I would have a conversation, right? And maybe what we need to do is have next week we'll do parenting and we can add this, but I would love to hear. All right. I have a 7-year-old with a history of a stroke at 19 months. He has SPD. I don't know what SPD is. And we were having such a hard time with him. Oh, sensory processing disorder. And read Trina's stuff. Like, please, 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 please go back and watch the videos that Trina and I did last week and the week before. And then Trina also posted a blog or an article on sensory processing disorder. Chelsea, maybe you can say, here it is. Here's the SPD article that Trina did, or whatever. Read this or something so that it pops to the top of the feed.
Yeah,
but please, please, please read that. Okay. And again, like the defiance comes from a feeling of not having any say so at all. Here's the okay, my laptop's making a lot of noise and I think I'm good for another 5 minutes and then we'll end. But I don't know about you guys. When I was raised, there was really a choice about there was a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And you could either agree or you could resist, right? But there was no middle ground. And what if there's a completely different space for you to be or to parent from, right? Which is getting information and just it's almost like being an observer to what's going on. But in order to observe what's going on, you really have to be free of emotions and feelings and thoughts and like all that kind of stuff that like knot you up. But really, when you ask the question, like, what is this? Like, what are they talking about? Um, and so, a stroke at 19 months, please read what Trina wrote and then get back to me. He still doesn't use the bathroom and he gets highly agitated at times. And it's like we're not getting through to him. Read the blog that Trina wrote or the article that Trina put in there and then get back to me, like ask me another question because I get that there may be some information in there for you. Thank you for the processing. Okay, that makes so much sense. All right, you guys, love you lots. Thank you so much. Thank you all for participating and jumping on. And next week, let's do how about a consult on parenting kids with like the name of the group, right? Parenting kids with ADD, ADHD, autism, and maybe we'll call it parenting one because I get that there are going to be lots of them. Okay, thank you so much, and I will look forward to chatting with you next week. All right, bye.